For the Athlete is sponsored by Pristine Auction, one of the largest auction houses for sports memorabilia and collectibles. They have thousands of items ending daily. Check them out and use registration code FTA for $10 off your first purchase. The link is in the description. Thank you, Pristine Auction, for sponsoring. Let's get to the episode.
You're listening to For the Athlete, a podcast aimed at humanizing the athlete by giving them a platform to control their own narrative and tell their life stories. As always, here's your host, Brooks Huber.
Welcome back to For the Athlete. I'm Brooks Huber, and today I'm joined by none other than Dr. Tommy Shavers. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Doing great. Appreciate you having me, Brooks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good myself. I'm ready to do this interview. I'm glad we were able to set this up because I've been doing extensive research, and the deeper I dive, the more impressed I am by your story and accomplishments. You got your doctorate degree from the University of Phoenix. Like I mentioned before we recorded, I'm 13 minutes away from that right now. You're an author, which is amazing, and a founder of your own neurostrength company called NESTRE, which we will dive into this all during the next 25 minutes. That's a pretty extensive list of accomplishments, if I say so myself.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's been a great journey. It's been a crazy journey, but excited about it and the work we're doing, in this space for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait until we get to NESTRE talk. It's going to be awesome. But let's now start where your story started. You played one season at UCF before suffering a couple of concussions in your freshman season. How many did you suffer, and what were the thoughts going on inside your head when all of this was happening?
Yeah, so I actually played 3 years. And so I played 3 years there, was a captain my senior year at UCF. And, in my senior year, and I had suffered, I think I had 2 concussions prior to that senior year. But during that senior year, I had 6 concussive blows within 4 weeks. And that essentially ended my playing career. Obviously, I had aspirations of playing in the NFL and playing for a long time. Love the sport, love the game, love the camaraderie that comes with it, the teamwork, the brotherhood. But as a result of the head injuries, wasn't able to continue to take the game to the next level. And so this journey really started for me back at UCF with my own kind of lived experience with mental and cognitive challenges.
Yeah, that's crazy. How hard was it for you to step away? You said you had aspirations making it to the NFL. I mean, were you kicking yourself, or did you just accept, hey, this is how it's going to be?
No, it was extremely hard. I mean, extremely hard. I remember having a conversation with my defensive coordinator, who was also a mentor, and asked him what his thoughts were, and he really encouraged me to essentially hang it up from the game's perspective. And a part of it was just because of his concern for me, but also he shared that I had so many opportunities and things that I could do that it for him it just made more sense to err on the side of caution. But I can remember going to our pro day to support our guys, and hadn't made any official announcements yet. And I actually shared this story in the NESTRE app about my journey in there, and hadn't made the announcement, and there to cheer on the guys, and then guys start coming up and they're saying, "Hey, man, the scouts are asking for you. The scouts are looking for you." And I asked, "So what did you tell them?" They're like, "I mean, we told them you're getting ready." And then being in there and hearing scouts say, "Hey, where's Shavers?" And only for me to be able to tell them that I was, hanging it up from the game, and that was hard. I remember calling my wife from the field saying, "This is one of the hardest things that I've ever done. I mean, I'm right here. I'm this close." But to make that decision at the time, was extremely hard. Love the game, but I'm grateful I did make the decision, especially considering the decline that I went through, months after.
Yeah, of course. I mean, now concussions are more mainstream in today's league compared to back then. How were you able to keep playing like back to back to back? Because Tua last year he had 3 concussions in one season. After the third one, they weren't going to risk it at all. They were keeping him out. You had 6 in 4 weeks. Were there any discussions after like the second or third one to pull you out, or what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting just to kind of put it in perspective. Like that era was supposed to be what science refers to as the decade of the brain, right? So there was all this emphasis on brain health, and uh, you know, I had a coach that was quoted during that time during one of those weeks saying, I was out with a concussion, but that was the least of our injuries. Um, just to kind of put it in some perspective, and I love the coach. He wasn't any ill, but that was the nature of the game then. And so the four of the blows came in practice. And so in one practice, and uh, and it was interesting because as the practice went on, I started to deteriorate. Like couldn't remember, calls, breaking the huddle, couldn't remember what my right or left was. I just remember going over to coach and saying something's wrong. I had totally forgot about, the consecutive head-on collisions that I had to do repeatedly earlier in that practice. And so once they diagnosed me with a concussion, instead of me being out for the game, they made me an emergency safety for the game.
No way. Emergency state. So you're concussed, and they're like, okay, you have to come in if something bad happens.
I I,
No
I
way.
was I was
So
literally.
player safety was low on the priority list here.
It was a different game in a different world. I mean, in fact, I mean, I still was the personal protector. I still was the starting personal protector on special teams, um, in the emergency safety. So two safeties had to go down in the game, uh, and literally both safeties go down, and I'm back in the game, as the emergency safety, and have a goal line encounter. If you remember, Michael Turner, Burner Turner, um, uh, big, powerful back. I think we were in Northern Illinois in goal line collision with Michael Turner, if you will. And I remember coming off the field after that, and the whole field literally turning sideways and swinging back and forth. And I remember coach yelling at me, "Get off the field!" And I'm like, "I can't. The ground is moving." Um,
Wow.
and so it was a crazy experience. So yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it was extremely crazy. But I know the coaches, I know their integrity. It was just a different game back then.
I mean, yeah, that was before the science that we know now, the science that you're working towards, the helmet pads and practices. Honestly, that in a couple of years or 10, 20 years, that could be the new norm in games, in my opinion, with the big pads. What do you think your life would have looked like had these concussions never happened? You talked about, hey, going to the league. Would your life goals have changed? Would you still have went back to school? Would you still have done the work you're doing with neuro strength, written the books that you wrote? How would that have looked?
That's a real good question. I mean, my journey was I wanted to play ball, wanted to play in the league at a high level, had the utmost confidence in myself in the game. I mean, grew up playing ball in South Florida, Dade County athlete, Dade County kid. So if you know anything about athletes from the South, we're never lacking in confidence.
Right?
And so I just knew I was going to go and go far. But then I also wanted to be a general manager, of a sports team, um, run a team, win championships. And at some point I wanted to own a pro franchise. So these are my goals, big goals, wanted to do, and, not being able to play in the league was extremely tough. But I always had these other passions of helping and developing people. And I just remember going, if I can't play in the league, my job is going to be, how do I find a way to help guys to come through that, are still on this journey, if you will. And so, I always think about it, what the kind of what if piece, still love the game, still young. So you never know, at some point, once we've, helped the world get extremely better, maybe, someone have me help them win Super Bowls and championships, on the side. But no, I mean, this journey's been purposeful. I get it now. That was hard to see back then, but just what we're doing and the impact we're having, it brought me back to the sport.
Yeah, you're still involved in football. You're just on a different side of it right now. That's a great way of looking at it. Let's talk now about NESTRE, right? In 2018, you founded your company, which is focused on mind and brain fitness. Tell me a little bit about it and why you started it. You touched on that a little bit, obviously, but let's go on the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I had the head injuries, the part that was really tough was, when the you know medical experts essentially told me that the decline I was dealing with, the mental and cognitive decline, there was no recovery from. I mean, there was like this: the science says this doesn't get any better. So you need to prepare to, get your affairs in order, because, and I'm in my mid 20s at this point, being told this narrative, and
Right?
just had my first child, and so it was crushing. And I'm like, I can't just go out like this. I mean, if you're a player, you're a fighter, you got any kind of, fight and grit to you. You're like, look, I'm gonna find a way, or I'm gonna go down swinging. You know what I mean? And that was kind of my mindset and mentality. Um, and so I went on to create my own, you know, cognitive recovery model. Created my own cognitive conversion theory for recovery. That if it was possible, what would it look like? And it worked. And in doing that, that's how I discovered this science of neuroplasticity, that the brain can change and it's responsive and adaptive. And as I was discovering this science, it just kept making sense to me from a sports and performance perspective. It just made sense. It was like, but that's what we do in sports all the time. You know, we work intensity, novel, complex things at a repetitive level to create this automated ability to do something. That's strength training. Why don't we just do that for the mind and the brain? And that was kind of the aha, that, listen, we can give people opportunities. And once I recovered, it was like, wait a minute, if I was able to do this on an impaired brain, imagine the possibilities for people who don't have head injuries. What are we yet to tap into? What's this next frontier that we can go to? Right now, we're just being told we kind of are who we are, but we've yet to exercise or strength train from the neck up the way we now know we can do and been doing for so long from the neck down. And so that's what we're doing at NESTRE. Our whole thing is, let's make mind and brain fitness a lifestyle. Let's see if we can raise the baseline of human potential by giving people opportunities to exercise their mental and cognitive health and performance like we exercise the body.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, you know how you can tear a muscle and then you can heal it and make it stronger. You're saying the brain's the same way.
100%. 100%.
All right, that brings me to my next point. So you touched on that you have an app. I, of course, downloaded it, took the test. I have the results. I have screenshots on my phone here. So tell everybody what the test is about, and then after you take it, how does that help you going forward?
Yeah. So inside the app, the first thing we do is we get what we call your NESTRE mindset profile. And with this profile, we're not looking for your personality. We're really looking at how your mind and brain prefers to experience the world. And so it takes 3 to 5 minutes. You get 3 numbers that provide you with some personalized insights about you. And the app takes that data and customize your mind and brain betterment experience uniquely to you inside of the app. And so if you're let's say, the different mindsets in there, if you're more of an alpha based mindset, the app will customize itself to your profile to help you understand how to be the best version of you with that mindset. But then it trains you cognitively inside of the app, built off of that type of profile for cognitive flexibility and exercise. So, real cool experience on how we built it. We say this: when it comes to health and performance, like, you can do one of two things. You can, find ways to lighten the load or the challenges, or you can just get stronger. And so for us, we wanted to build something that allows people to exercise.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I took the test. I was leaning a little bit more alpha, just because I like to have confidence, right? And then yeah, here's the phone tab right here. You just go through, swipe, and they're all for mental strength. So that's really cool app. I was working on it last night, just going through it, messing around. I think I'll do the daily workout today after this. But yeah, no, that's awesome work that you guys are doing there.
No, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, people talk about it's a workout. It's 5 minutes. It's not, but we wanted to build it as a workout. Not something you got to do for long. Get in, get out, get better. And it's people have tons of conversations about their mindset profile. They're like, listen, this profile should be in marriage counseling and hiring, and I want everyone to know, at least know how I'm wired, and I want to know how they're wired. And so it's been a cool conversation starter as well. But go grab the app; you'll enjoy it. It's an awesome experience.
There we go. Let's now talk about the high profile athletes that you're working with, such as your co founder, Super Bowl 50 champion, Julius Thomas, Hall of Famer, Calvin Johnson, RG3, Gabe Davis, Malcolm Jenkins. How did you pitch Nestre to them, and what made them all want to jump on the Nestre bandwagon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that resonated with all of them was that they're all high performers, um, elite high performers, uh, seen it all. You know, there isn't things that hadn't been put in front of them that they hadn't really seen before. And when it came to this idea that there's an opportunity using technology to elevate human potential, to increase access to your wellness and your talent, I think across the board, that resonated with them. Seeing the data, seeing the outcomes, um, this was built by high performers for high performers to be able to be given to the everyday performer. And so I think, if I had to sum it up, it was next level, and they're all looking for what's the next level thing, right? And so each ambassador is different. Also, Chloe Abbott, pro track and field athlete, on the contestant on the past season of The Voice, multi-talented. All of them are different in their own right, and we really wanted to have this kind of diversity, if you will, that people can resonate with. So the ambassadors are awesome, 100%, and they're all great people too.
Yeah, how often do you talk back and forth with them, checking in, seeing how all this stuff works?
Yeah, I mean, we talk regularly with our ambassador. I mean, that was one of the important things as we were building, Nestre. We wanted to have a personal relationship, not a transactional relationship with our ambassadors. One, we want individuals that valued what we were doing and saw the value in what we were doing. And two, that it resonated enough that, the relationship would be a real, genuine relationship. So I talk to all of our ambassadors literally every week. And so whether it's about Nestre or whether I'm giving, RG3 a hard time because Baylor lost, I think we got them this week coming up. Now we're both of our teams are now in the same conference. So, um, I texted him the first week, sorry for your loss. And he sent back some crying emojis, but like, the relationships are awesome. They're great people. And I think that's one thing about, elite athletes that most people don't get a chance to see, is just how incredibly personable they are from a relationship standpoint. And so I talk to RG weekly, daily, Malcolm, Calvin, Gabe, obviously Julius. And so it's a real relationship, kind of brotherhood, ambassadorship, that we're honored and privileged to be able to have.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. Like when I saw Calvin Johnson follow me on Instagram one day, that was like that made my month. Like that was the coolest moment ever. And I love listening to RG3 calling games. He says some out of pocket stuff, which I'm not sure how he gets away with it, but I applaud him for it. Like that's what I'm going to school here at ASU for, sports broadcasting, and I have a great time listening to him every week.
Yeah, people don't understand. Like, RG is a maniacal. You know, he's maniacal in his preparation. Like he's always prepared, and plus he's so brilliant in real time. That it just makes for great television.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just makes for great television. So and we're excited. He's rising up the ranks in that way, and having high level elite former players, having current and emerging players. We'll continue to move into the other sports for our ambassadorships also, but also beyond sport. We really want to celebrate the world of high performers across the board from an ambassadorship perspective.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, this leads into my next question. You're working with 4 NFL teams, over 15 colleges. What does the day-to-day work look like with these groups, and how do these partnerships form?
Yeah, so what we're doing now, really is, we're really having these initial, you know, educating people on this possibility of what we can do now with the mind and the brain. And so, being able to go on site, um, give them firsthand experiences, see what it can look like for them to integrate, these new modalities, technologies, innovation. Everyone's looking for the edge. You said it earlier. People are more mindful now of how do we better take care of, not just the athlete, but the human. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's an incredible time to be able to do that now, and do it in such a way that, as we talk about how can we help to, improve both the safety and the performance of sport, while preserving the integrity of their games, you know, um, and we know it's a high performing, high stake environment, and so how can we add value to it? It's been cool. It's been cool to, um, get people thinking about, okay, this is the next level. This could be the next level in data analytics. This could be the next level in human performance optimization. This is the next level in, wellness and player development. The mind and the brain is the next frontier, and the more we're able to get it in front of people, the more it just makes sense, and they start to see all of the possibilities, that can be leveraged. We're excited to look and see what it's going to look like in sport, with Nestre being involved 5-10 years from now.
Well, yeah, what do you think it will look like in 5 years? Because that's actually my next question on here. What are the scientific improvements? Yeah, there we go. Same wavelength. I think it's because I took that test, if I'm being honest. I think it is. Yeah. So, what are you expecting to see in the next 5 years
Yeah,
from Nestle and the scientific
yeah,
improvements?
yeah. We're just scratching the surface on some of the amazing things we're seeing in the labs and even with the digital app. Like, you know, take everything from, talent acquisition and assessment, seeing individuals be, you know, given better opportunities to be successful, to become the better version of themselves, because we got personalized data now that we can be intentional about helping individuals do that. We're taking the guesswork, out of it. I mean, we talk about, everyone says we're in the people business, but the thing we should know the most, we know the least, how people work, um,
Right.
and so that's one of the things that we're excited about. What can success look like for individuals and organizations when we can be better at identifying who they are and how to be more intentional about helping them become the best version of themselves. From a performance perspective, we're like, and we love the tagline, right? We say it like, we want to raise the baseline of human potential and then see what happens. Like, what does it look like? What does it look like when individuals know how to tap into their wellness? Um, Individuals know how to control their mindset for optimal performance. When it's not when it's not just an art, but now it starts to become a science. I mean, you're talking about seeing, we see incredible feats now. We're talking about seeing individuals reach or begin to scratch the surface on their human potential and capabilities. And so we want to see it integrated throughout all professional sport, obviously, become a mainstay. Um, and while we say give them what they want so we can give them what they need, help teams and organizations become incredibly successful. At the same time, we're helping the individual become a better and better version of themselves. And that's that win-win that we're really excited about seeing in the future at really all levels of sport, from youth to professional and then beyond the sport for the everyday individual.
See, I like how you're taking an athlete and you're focusing on like the people side of them, not like the physical side. That's kind of like what I like to do for the athlete. I like to talk to athletes about off the field stuff because they can ask so many questions. They do so much work on the field. It's sometimes good to just talk about stuff off.
That's why, when you mentioned about, the relationship with our ambassadors, that's why we love our ambassadors so much. It's, excuse me, is the human side of who they are. Like, to be able to have great, awesome relationships, to be able to talk about, our kids or our girls with RG3, or, knowing how much Calvin loves golf, and, a fellow UCF Knight with Gabe Davis, a fellow safety. And we both wore 27. I mean, he wore it in Super Bowls, but, with Malcolm Jenkins, and just having somebody with such a similar mindset, and, just to be able to have life, business, human conversations, is been, awesome. And then, I mean, obviously Julius, man, Julius is a stud. Um, won me some fantasy football games back in the day when he was playing, but having him as a co-founder, him now being a professor of neuroscience. um, we have like life-changing conversations like every week. And so the human side of it, man, I mean, it's probably the biggest joy I get out of, working with all of those individuals.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's funny that you mentioned fantasy football because my first year playing, I drafted Calvin Johnson like first overall, and yeah, that was his last season in the league. So that's pretty cool. I only have one more question for you. When you're 60 something and you're retired from Nestre, what do you hope for the company to look like?
Yeah, so one, definitely not retiring. The brain's going to keep working. I'm going to be doing something and
There we
something
go. Okay.
something really hard, really difficult, really complex, to keep this brain, energized and going. But I mean, I love I love the opportunity to be a pioneer and an innovator, because that means somebody's going to come behind you, take what you've built, and take it to another level. And I know how I'm wired. Like, I'm trying to take this thing so far that I'm going to be uber impressed with whatever comes after. That's the part I get really excited about. Like, we have a chance to influence, kind of the arc of society, if you will. Like, if mind and brain fitness becomes a lifestyle, we've changed the trajectory of how humans operate. Like, that's just cool to think about. As our team, we talk about it like, hey man, our Super Bowl one day is going to be a Nobel Prize. Like, we want to tackle some of the world's biggest brain-based challenges at some point. But in the meantime, we want to just keep helping people get better, keep hearing their stories. And you're already doing legacy work in that way. So, when I'm wiser, the wise age of 60 plus, I'm just looking forward to seeing, where technology and innovation can move, where this thing goes. So, but in the meantime, we're going to run with it. We're going to take this thing as far as we can, and then hand it off to somebody and let them run.
There we go. I got chills when you talked about trailblazing and handing it off to someone. Awesome work that you're doing there. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to tell your story and share NESTRE with me. I wish you the best with everything, and you're welcome onto the show whenever you feel like it, because this was probably one of my best, if not the best, conversations I've had on For the Athlete.
No, man, that's awesome. Listen, I appreciate you having me on. Would love to come on anytime. Just let me know. Excited about the work we're doing, and excited to get a chance to share about it here on the platform, man. It's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. You just listened to the Tommy Schaefer's episode of For the Athlete. I'm your host, Brooks Huber, signing off until this time again next week. Take care, everyone.
You're listening to For the Athlete, a podcast aimed at humanizing the athlete by giving them a platform to control their own narrative and tell their life stories. As always, here's your host, Brooks Huber. Thanks for listening to For the Athlete. As always, be on the lookout for another athlete appearance next week. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and wherever you listen to podcasts.